All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is April 14th, 2020. Still in the midst of this virus and quarantine. Today is going to be a topic about decisions and personal responsibility. That may sound, not fun. Like it's maybe a conversation I should be having with my kids, but it's one I think that we all can benefit from, and it is a topic that smacked me in the face the other day. So, as is one of my favorite learning tools, I'm going to use myself as the example of having done something stupid and what I learned from having done something stupid, so that ideally all of you can do less stupid things for a shorter period of time than I did, and therefore live a better and higher quality of life. So I'm talking about specifically the April 11th workout that we just did a few days ago, and that was 3 rounds for time of 50 double unders and 25 overhead squats, 75 pounds for the men, 55 pounds for women. Really liked that workout, by the way. That was, when I programmed that one, we obviously needed something relatively short that day, and light, and overhead and below parallel. And I was inspired by Randy, which is 75 power snatches for time, 75 pounds. And then I was also inspired by a different workout, but a heavier loading. But we didn't need a heavy loading that day. It's a regionals workout. I believe it was one of the regional qualifier events years ago. And it was 3 rounds for time. We've done this before, of 50 double unders and 10 overhead squats at 135 or 95 pounds. And I think the double unders come first on that one. The overhead squats might. But anyway, there's another similar workout we've done before. But all that shook out to what we needed that day. 3 rounds for time, 50 double unders, 25 overhead squats, 75 pounds for the men, and 55 for the women. And I say that because, I've been doing CrossFit 15 years. And it doesn't take 15 years for most people. It may not be you, so this is definitely not a personal insult. Just in general, my experience has shown me that 75 pounds for men and 55 pounds for women for an overhead squat is a very reasonable loading that most people would consider on the light side, and think that they're going to get into that workout and just tear it up, just rip it up, if not do the whole thing fast and unbroken and be on, Sports Center that night. So, and this is where my idiocy comes into the story. In the past, I haven't been an idiot in this regard in a bit, but it popped into my head. But in the past, many years ago, when I first got into CrossFit, before I had the actual true capability to do some movements properly and fast and well and unbroken, I would just do whatever I needed to do, contort my body into whatever position was needed, because in my little world, getting a fast time, that was what it was all about. Had to get a fast time, and whatever you had to do to get a fast time and beat your friends, well, that was the most important thing, right? I mean, because we're young, we're indestructible, so what could go wrong? And I think often of the workout Nancy, because the workout I just mentioned from the 11th, that has overhead squats at 75 pounds. Nancy has 5 sets of 15 at 95 pounds mixed in with 400-meter runs. And it was always a decent workout for me, but it should not have been. It was a decent workout for me because I would do the runs, grab the barbell, get it overhead, and then my overhead position, which I've been very vocal about, it's never that great from motorcycle wrecks and the military, terrible shoulders. It wouldn't look pretty, but what I would do is I would lock my shoulders into this disgusting, internally rotated position that if you saw would probably just make you vomit. And kind of rolling my shoulders in and doing that would just kind of keep the barbell there, and then I just pump my legs up and down, knock out the 15 reps, take off from the run, and I would do it again and again and again. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, that was so profoundly idiotic, short-sighted, and dumb that I'm embarrassed that I did workouts that way. Embarrassed by it. It was not good for my fitness, not good for my shoulders, not good for my health. In the long run, it maybe gave me some quick times in the moment, but in the long run, it only delayed my progress because all I was doing was just reinforcing bad movement, building bad habits, and then, I'm a human being with pride and ego and all those things, and then I was getting it in my psyche that those times that I got on Nancy, well, those are my real Nancy times. I've done it 3 or 4 times, so those are my times. The last thing that I want to do is lighten the weight, fix my positioning, put the barbell down, or do anything that would actually slow me down for months, if not a couple years, to then correct it and get back to what I should have been doing in the first place. I didn't want to do that. Who wants to regress, right? Right? It's a very natural human deal. Luckily, I'm a slow learner, but as the years go by by little, light dawns on my thick head. 44 years old right now, 15 years into CrossFit, and, been lucky enough to do this, for a living and just immerse myself in knowledge and people smarter than me. And little by little, I had to realize that I was conducting myself like the rear end of a horse, and that's not what I should do. And point being, a few days ago on April 11th, when we did this workout that has a 75-pound overhead squat, when, I've ripped 95-pound overhead squats for years in Nancy, but, the last 5 years I've conducted myself in a smarter fashion, let's say. And so during that workout, did the 50 double unders, they went great, picked up the barbell, and now I really, as I have now for years, tried to focus on getting into what is a good overhead squat position. And a good overhead squat position, you guys can see here in a video, but this will eventually be made into a podcast, which will be tough for people to, they won't be able to see it, so I'll try to show it and articulate it. So an externally rotated shoulder, which you would like to have in an overhead squat, is your armpit is facing the front. Okay, that's an internally rotated. My armpit's facing down, no good. That's how I used to overhead squat for years. Stupid, don't do that. And that's not CrossFit's fault, it's my fault. You want to be a nice externally rotated shoulder where the armpit's facing forward. So if somebody's listening to this when we put it out in podcast form, here's how I could explain it. If you're standing up and you have your hands by your side, your palms are pressed against your thighs, hands down by your side, almost like you're about to start a jumping jack, okay? And then you, keeping your arms straight like that, you lift them out to the sides so they are now parallel with the floor. Palms facing the floor, armpits are facing the floor, and your arms are parallel with the floor. If you now rotate your hands so that your thumbs are facing the sky, your armpits should be facing forward. That rotation where your armpits come forward, your thumbs face the sky, that's external rotation. That is what you want to have happen, that position anyway, when you have the barbell overhead. That position is easy for some folks and challenging for others. Very, very challenging for me. Very challenging. And so I had to remove as best I could my ego and pride and all that. And I did the 50 double unders, grabbed the 75-pound barbell, and I didn't do a single one of those overhead squats, those sets of 25 unbroken. Not a single one. Not the first one. As a matter of fact, the biggest set that I did to get to 25 reps per round was 12 repetitions with a 75-pound barbell. This is after 15 years of doing CrossFit. And again, that's just because I've got some terrible things going on with my shoulders, and I made dumb decisions earlier on. But now I want to make smarter decisions that will allow me to be doing overhead squats regardless of the weight when I'm in my 50s, when I'm in my 60s, etc. So every one of my sets of 25 was 12. I could feel my arms starting to internally rotate. As soon as I did that, I just dropped the barbell. I wasn't really correcting, so I'd drop the barbell, I'd rest a bit, I'd pick it up, I'd do a set of 8, I'd start to feel it internally rotate again, that would get me to 20 reps out of 25. And then I would pick it up and I'd do the final 5 reps. So every single set of 25 went 12, 8, 5. And the barbell was on the ground a fair amount of time, and I only picked it up when I felt like I would be able to keep that position better, okay? So, in here, here is another thing to think about. Yes, the workout is for time. And yes, I could have got a faster time, and hopefully this is resonating with some people out there. I could have got a faster time by putting myself in a position or through some technique which isn't, it potentially could have been faster, because I could have done the workout faster with worse technique, with that light loading anyway. Could have internally rotated the shoulders, locked it in, grin and bared it, and just ripped them. That would have yielded me a faster time and would have been a terrible decision. So yes, CrossFit workouts are done for time. But like so many other things in the world, that simple 2-word phrase, you don't really understand what it means without some context behind it, without some nuance. It's not just as simple as for time meaning that reigns supreme. It should be for time ... which means you moving as quick as you can given your current ability level, your current technical proficiency with the movement, your flexibility. All those other caveats have to be rolled into for time. You're going to do it as quickly as you can while moving the best that you can. And when your movement quality starts to degrade, or anything else of your technical proficiency starts to degrade, that then overrules the for time portion, and you stop, or you put the bar down, or you come down off the pull-up bar, or you come down off the rings, whatever it happens to be. And then you allow yourself to recover and you regain your composure until you have the ability to start moving again. That's what for time means. For time just doesn't mean stomp the gas pedal and nothing else matters. Unfortunately, I fell into that trap in my very younger years in CrossFit, and I wish I had a time machine to go back and undo it, but I do not. And it would be an understatement to say that I'm relatively familiar with CrossFit's methodology, concepts, principles, etc. I've earned my full-time living that way for quite some time. Been a flow master, taught a couple hundred seminars, intimately familiar with the journal, have written for the journal, etc., etc. You will find nowhere in the CrossFit methodology do they tell you to stomp the gas pedal and nothing else matters. That is a construction of human beings, not of CrossFit. So we cannot blame the methodology for that. Those are flawed human beings making poor decisions and putting things into a higher level in the priority list than they deserve. So when I did that, it wasn't CrossFit's fault. It wasn't whoever invented the overhead squat or the double under. It was my own fault. And so now, ideally, all of us can make some better decisions because, that's not what we want to do. So personal responsibility, personal accountability, how wonderful is that? I'm responsible for the decisions that I make, and I can blame nobody else but myself. CrossFit prescribes mechanics, consistency, and then intensity. And they do that for a reason. It's not just lip service. They don't just do that. They say, all right, look, here's the deal. We all just want to go fast, right, and stomp the gas pedal, but we can't say that. It'll make us look bad. So let's just say mechanics, consistency, intensity. Then at least they have to say, well, that's what they said, and then we'll go do something different. That's not it. It really is mechanics, consistency, and then intensity. That's it. But that path, human beings don't like to take their time. Human beings don't like to slowly develop foundational movements and the building blocks. They want to do the fast, sexy, cool stuff on day 2. That's just how human beings are wired. And so human beings mess that up. Mechanics, consistency, and then and only then intensity works really well until you involve human beings. So, anyway, I think there can be some misconceptions about that and some misconceptions about what for time actually means. So hopefully that makes sense. And here's the deal. In my personal opinion, if you choose to violate that, if you choose your choice, that's also the wonderful thing. You can roll however you want to roll. If you choose to violate mechanics, consistency, and intensity, because you're like I was in my younger years, which was just, oh boy, I shake my head. Just a stubborn former military dude that thought he was bulletproof and, indestructible. And if you choose to violate that because you don't think the rules apply to you, you don't think that age or bad reps or whatever will catch up to you, that's your personal choice. Don't blame CrossFit. Don't blame anyone else. That's on you. And you might make those decisions every now and then. And here's another rabbit hole we could go down. Not that we need to go down another rabbit hole. So I should have named these podcasts instead of Linchpin Conversations. I should call them rabbit holes. You might make the choice every now and then to intentionally violate mechanics, consistency, and intensity and do something which, from just a cold, calculated, scientific analysis, would be a poor decision to do with your body. That's your decision. It would be really tough to say that playing a 10-year career in the NFL is good for your body, that it's a good physical decision for your mental state, for your head, for your spine, for your knees. It'd be really tough to support that. But there's a whole bunch of people every day that wake up with a lifelong dream and passion to pursue that, even though they probably know they're going to get the stuffing beat out of them and potentially live a life of pain afterwards. But they love the game, it's worth the fame, the fortune, whatever it happens to be. So they're making a conscious choice. And I don't know, that's neither right nor wrong. It's their choice. If you are in a CrossFit competition, I don't care if it's the CrossFit Games, the Open, or a local throwdown at your favorite affiliate once it opens back up here, and you decide, I am going to do whatever I need to do to win this competition. I don't care how I look, I don't care how I move, I don't care what it does. It is all consuming to me, and I'm going to round my back on every deadlift, and I'm going to do whatever. I'm just going to go like just bonkers. I don't think it's a good idea, but do you know what? You are welcome and free to do that. And if I see a video of you doing that online on YouTube because somebody in the crowd videotaped the competition, if somebody posts a comment there on YouTube that says, "That's why CrossFit sucks. Look at that movement," I can see how somebody might think that, but that's not the case. That is an individual who made a choice to do that with their body. And if somebody pulls a bad deadlift, it's not whoever invented the deadlift. It's not their fault, and it's not CrossFit's fault. It's a personal choice. And I have done that before, not only just in CrossFit. I mean, here's a rabbit hole as to you can do something that wasn't good for your body, know that it wasn't good for it, and then not regret it. So maybe we'll end on this, because this could be like a whole other topic, which is, let's see. Somebody says, I have to hit a meeting. How can I watch this later? You're going to go to a meeting over listen to this? I can't believe that. No, this will live on Instagram for 24 hours, then it disappears. But I will keep this recording, and I'll put it on the CF Linchpin YouTube channel. So you go to the CF Linchpin YouTube channel, and all these live there, so you can check it out there. I have a bad neck and bad shoulders from motorcycle wrecks. I was a knucklehead on motorcycles most of my life. Loved twisting that throttle. And it wasn't whoever built Yamaha bikes and Honda bikes. It wasn't their fault that I loved to twist the throttle. It's my fault. It wasn't the civil engineer that decided to make the road super twisty in the backcountry. It's my fault for trying to hit those twisties that fast. I would not do those decisions again if I had the opportunity. If I had a time machine, I wouldn't crash those motorcycles. I would ride slower, and it would be less fun, and oh well. However, the other damage that I did to my body was in SEAL school, in BUDS. There's some stuff that we did back in the 90s that they don't allow students to do anymore. For example, carrying the boats on our heads and running around. It just, who would have guessed carrying boats on your head that weigh hundreds of pounds and running over uneven soft sand and up and down berms may not be good for your cervical spine. It may actually just turn that thing into dust and crush it, and people would have neck and back and shoulder pain for the rest of their lives. Shocker. So we did that for a long time, and I've got a terrible neck and shoulders to this day. But now the students don't have to do that anymore. But here's just a personal thing. If I had to do that all over again, with the boats on my head, knowing that I would have neck pain and a bad overhead squat for the remainder of my years on this planet, would I go back and do that training again to have that career and all that? And the answer is yes. I 100% would. So that's why the world is not a clear-cut math problem, right? That's why everything involves personal choice, personal responsibility, decision weighing, figuring out your priorities, and is the juice worth the squeeze? And these days, when I'm just working out in my driveway, when I feel myself get into a poor position, I stop working out and take a small break, and then I start again. And if that means I post a slower time, oh well. I would have cared 12 years ago, and I don't care anymore. Just care on, trying to do it right. So, that was my ramblings for the day. Let's see what I missed here. Let's see. Chris, with the weekly edition of the Not for Time Wads, how have you determined which workout it will be? Great question. When I'm looking over the week's training, I don't know how to say this. Some of them just jump out at me as like, that's a really great one that doesn't need to be for time to be effective. It could be something that maybe has a bunch of high reps, strict gymnastics work in it, for example, or something like that, and therefore people are going to have to take some big rests anyway because strict ring dips go away or strict pull-ups go away or whatnot, and so, hey, let's just remove the pressure of the clock. I certainly wouldn't make a not for time workout on something which was like, one of our interval days or something like that. You're not going to see a not for time Helen or Fran or so on and so forth. Every now and then I'll take a chance on one, but most of them are ones that just fit relatively well and don't interfere with what we need over the course of the week for just the intensity pieces. Okay. W. Brooks 8, I think that is the biggest misconception with CrossFit. People think it's as fast as possible with no focus on form. Yep, for sure. Let's see, you need to hear this more. Good, yep, no worries. Some high fives right back at you. Nothing gets me going in the morning like some high fives. And I think we're good. Okay, great, excellent. Well, I'm going to continue my coffee, start my calls for the day, and we're good. Have a great day. We'll talk later. Adios.